The North Node is currently transiting the star cluster Hyades in the sign of Gemini, conjunct the Black Moon Lilith energy, as well as the gates 16.2, 16.1, and 20.6 in human design. And I'm gonna get into all about this conjunction of North Node and Hyades in this video. What this means when these 2 points meet, as well as when the Black Moon Lilith asteroid is in the mix, and same with the human design gates. How does this all work together? This gateway portal has been open since August 23rd, and it is open until the 5th of September. What I wanted to start with is, of course, what it means when we have the North Node conjunct a star cluster or a fixed star or something like that. Right now, with it being conjunct in Hyades, this means that we are seeing our direction be pulled towards these very Hyadean traits, and we are finding our purpose through those energetic pathways. And when it comes to the Hyades energy, this is not a star species that is talked about all too much. People just don't know much about them, and people don't really channel them, and it's just not the most popular thing at all. Apparently these beings have been actually a very big part of the evolution of humanity, aside from beings like Sirians and Pleiadians and Arcturians. But when it comes to Hyades, these are very gentle beings, and personally I actually have a Hyadean guide who is a protector, so this being protects me and guards me in a way, and I sometimes embody a lot of this Hyadean energy as well. These are usually feline species, but some of them are also just pure light, some of them are something else, humanoids. The guide that I speak to is like a feline being, and as you can see from the imagery that I created for this, is I just found the white tiger to be something a bit more resonant than like a lion, even though I usually do see them as lions, but somehow this white tiger just felt more accurate. So that's kind of what we're talking about. We're talking about beings that are peacekeepers, that value solitude, that value sort of this quiet energy. It's like very quiet, peaceful, gentle, and again, they have to do with different ways of being loyal, different ways of loving very hard. It's this unconditional love that really knows no boundaries, like with a lot of star species. But it's especially strong with these beings because sometimes they would rather keep the peace. And one of the things that came through was we might actually have this temptation to keep the peace versus defend ourselves, which can come through when the Black Moon Lilith is in the mix, because that is where we have temptations, and we also have different shadow sides come about. We have different defense mechanism also come about, since Lilith is the one who, defends herself and just leaves because they demand better. So because that's exactly what we usually need in that moment. Sometimes in these desperate moments we demand better, and I have definitely been feeling this energy as well. I've been feeling a lot of these things that came through here. And it's important to, of course, pay attention to where we have been silenced, because not only does this have to do with the fact that gates that we're talking about in human design, apart from one channel, are in the throat center, and as well as Gemini being very talkative energy, makes a lot of sense that the majority of Gemini gates are in the throat center. So this is very talkative energy, but there can also be the shadow side where we may just burst out, speak, shout, maybe not put forward our best ways of being because we have been silenced for so long, or maybe we just have blocks around that. These themes do come about, and even if we have actually cleared this and deconditioned and all of this stuff, these can still come about here and there, especially when we have Lilith in the mix, and this can also be a situation where some nasty stuff may come out of our mouths or other people's mouths. And we have to understand that there can either be something like this behind this, or it can also, just like I phrased it here, shadow cravings. Mental and verbal shadow cravings. So something that we don't necessarily like about ourselves comes out. But there can also be a very positive cosmic stimuli, so this can be a very stimulating aspect because we have that north node there in the mix. Then we also might have temptations to keep feeding the monkeys. This is kind of how I wrote it here. So this could be distractions, clutter, and different types of attention grabbers, even addicting things. These type of things can kind of come when this type of a formation happens. Just keep on moving forward, bringing these higher visions to clarity, because we can do a lot of enlightened shadow work here and kind of transcend to our true north by facing these gnarly obstacles, and we can cope with these things in order to actually bring those higher paths to fruition here. And another temptation that may come about is dwelling in the old versus creating the new. And this is a Hyadean shadow because these are very nostalgic beings, of course, and there may be like medieval past lives or Atlantis past lives, angelic energy that Hyadean beings might have as well. They are travelers of dimensions after all. But the thing here is we should definitely make sure that we focus on creating the new as much as possible, to its best fruition, of course, and staying on track. Staying on track, a big call to stay on track. Since there might be some excessive hunger, especially when it comes to bad habits. Another thing I wrote here that is very important is about just being aware of energy vampires, which I've noticed a lot. This can happen, especially when it comes to the fact that Mars is going to oppose Neptune in just a couple of days from today that I'm recording this. So just remember to call back your energy, of course, because that's really going to help when it comes to avoiding energy vampires and not giving them that power, and that's something to keep in mind. Now, another thing, of course, is that we are in the waning moon phase before the new moon, and ever since the beginning of this portal we have been in this waning moon phase. Well, there has been the third quarter, but technically it's all waning energy. And so the energy is going down. There's more of this removal and quieting the energy, as well as inward energy. So this is, again, we're calling back energy, as well as letting yourself slow down and receive downloads, especially if you are a channeler, especially if you are a practitioner and worker. This can be really useful. For that, you can just slow the freak down and get present. That's another theme here, especially in the last day or two of this transit. It's a big theme when it comes to human design gates here. Now that we're kind of done with the Hyades energy, I would like to go on to, well, we can brush on the Gemini energy a little bit, since the moon is also in Gemini as I'm recording this. So when it comes to Gemini energy, this is very quick and clever and adaptable energy. And there's also lots of, there's some duality, there's some talk, there's some versatile vibes. That's how I wrote this here. And all of this, again, ties quite well into the human design as well. Now, this is a challenge when it comes to the Hyades energy. We might want to be just talking all the time, because this is Gemini. So Gemini will want to talk, but we are being challenged to be more quiet as well, especially with the moon phase. Again, with the fact that almost all of this Gemini energy is in the throat center, we should avoid complaining and be very productive and mindful in the way that we use our voice, so that we can then, of course, manifest the best outcome. And it is important to not repress things, because being present becomes more highlighted at the end of the transit. So therefore we do have to be aware of this going on in others as well. So be gentle with others as well. There's the Hyadean gentleness as well, with all of the precautions mentioned before. So keeping those boundaries as well. And also if you get downloads, write them down ASAP, same with dreams and cool ideas. Geminis have a lot of cool ideas. So there may be a lot of buzzing in our minds. I'm gonna go more into that in the gates when it comes to this. But then the other thing that I wanted to mention before moving into that is that the north node and south node are in their exaltation right now. So north node being exalted in Gemini, south node in Sagittarius. So this is, I would say, for the most part, this is going to be very positive transit. It's going to have more positive outcomes, especially when we make sure that the nasty stuff is cleared and that we focus on the higher paths. So that's some cool ideas to be aware of. When it comes to the gates, so we are currently at 16.1. We started this transit at 16.2, and this is the comfort gate, the gate called comfort and the gate of skills. So again, when it comes to that word comfort, you know, that might be something that kind of brings forward something that feels very comfortable to do, very repetitive action, a kind of monkey see, monkey do type of thing that kind of came through. There might be something like that, though this gate itself isn't necessarily focused around repetition, I believe. I think there are other gates that do that a lot more. But when it comes to this then, the gate of skills, there's a lot of versatility as well as selectivity and enthusiasm in this gate. It also shows sorting and useful things, so a lot of these type of skills can come through. There is also a call for many skills and multi-talents when it comes to the second line energy, because there is the call usually reflected in the second line energy. For those that are actually multi-talents may feel called to perform those talents and approach them enthusiastically. And the actual name of the second line for this gate 16 is the cynic, ability to judge objectively. So that's when we have the exalted energy. I'm not going to get more into that since we are already past this one. We are now at 16.1, which is almost the same thing. Again, it's the gate of skills, versatility, selectivity, enthusiasm, and again, sorting and useful things. Now, with the first line, this is delusion, so again, that word itself is a bit dualistic, but we're talking about an expression of talent through daydreaming and searching for material to perfect talent, which I personally felt a lot. I've done that recently. And then there's also unrealized claims, so fantasy versus fact, or like false enthusiasm. So that's more so when this doesn't necessarily work to its best ability, but I feel like this is going to be a very dreamy time, but I also find that a lot of us are definitely going to be going into that, research mode. That's almost how it feels like to me. And when it comes to the gate 20.6, since we do have this retrograde motion, that's why we are actually moving from gate 1 to 6, when usually we would go from 6 to 1. No, not the gate, I mean, that's why we're going from the first line to the sixth line versus the other way around. It usually goes from the sixth line to the first line, because we have 6 lines in human design for each gate. As again we go backwards, because the nodes move backwards, we are going into gate 20.6, which is the contemplation, point of view, and self-assurance. With the 6th line, this is wisdom, the now, being present, taking action from the present. And this is contemplation, which results in the ability to apply understanding. So again, we're going into this very contemplative state at the end of this transit. We will know where we will go with the true north, the north node. And this is where we transform individual awareness for general application and understanding. And since this is a part of like an integration channel, where there's like multiple gates at the other end, this gate can give voice to gate 27's intuitive survival awareness, to gate 10's behavioral patterns and commitments to higher principles, or it can manifest gate 34's sacral power through action toward individuation. And at this point we should be more aware of where this depth is needed, since the gate 48 made a channel with Venus in there in the beginning of this transit. So we should already be somewhat aware of where we actually need more of that deeper research and deeper application and more of that depth. And now when it comes to then the channel 2034, which we actually have with the south node being at the 34, this implies that thoughts must be deeds. And this is the channel of charisma. And I find this very interesting that this one is here also, because these are both of the nodes. They're coming together here in this channel, in the channel of charisma. Thoughts must be deeds. And I just see this as the sort of integration of the gifts, say past life gifts in the south node and the future destiny and sort of the jumping board, to the north node. So this is then just feels like a beautiful integration of that traveling between the worlds that the Hyadean beings do. And therefore using that to bring that understanding and to bring these new actions about that will therefore help people and beings to work in this world better and to go towards where their heart leads them. Because even though we're talking about the throat center, the Hyadean beings are also very heart-centered. Keep your tabs open on the ideas that come about from this time, because there can be a lot of cool ideas. But also be very mindful of everything that's going on with, say, energy vampires that might be coming through, or excessive hunger, any shadow patterns that may come about. And again, I feel like the south node can really help in purging some of those, but also really pay attention to the following past life things that might come about. So medieval past lives, again, angelic past lives, Atlantis past lives. Like if you've traveled a lot in a past life, that's something that is worth paying attention to. Last thing that I wanted to mention before I sign off is all about the skills and talents that may come about in the Hyadean perspective and the Hyadean energy. And these are things like poetry, music, again, angelic communication, any skills that you may have had in Atlantis, or anything like that, different ways of traveling. So, of course, time travel, quantum travel, astral projection, different ways of guidance and divination, and of course, working by yourself. So even that can be a skill that can be very much activated at this time. And different ways of ancient knowledge, ancient wisdom, ancient knowing. So these are some of the things that I wanted to mention before we end here. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And of course, if you'd like to see more, stay tuned. If you're new, subscribe. For those of you who are returning viewers and you watched it this far, stay tuned, because I've got some cool announcement for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.